The truth about visas. This is about to be a long one, so stick with me. I'm about to break this down from my perspective that the average person will understand. Because I'm going to explain it without any deception or fear. So let's start off with this H-1B visa that everyone is fear-mongering about. Because now they have to pay $100,000 in order to work in America. As they should. This is no different from athletes from overseas get drafted to America to play in the NBA, for example. Someone had to pay for marketing in order for this person to even get noticed. And the same should go for all these jobs, because it's taking away the resources from the Americans without providing any benefits for America. They're upping the price to protect the American jobs, the economy, and national security. As y'all can see the definition behind me, the H-1B visa is a classification of a non-immigrant visa in the United States that allows U.S. employers to hire foreign workers in quote-unquote specialty occupations, as well as fashion models or persons who are engaged in the Department of Defense projects who meet certain conditions. So have y'all noticed how the way everyone is particularly talking about the medical field, which is particular visa? Because when they say quote-unquote specialty occupation, they mean as in jobs that can alter people's lives. Also, we see the models, but when we see models, it always tend to seem like someone from a different country, just getting free money. And as y'all can see, specifically the Department of Defense and why they had to revamp it to the Department of War, because they had infiltrators because of stuff like this. So if y'all don't know, one of the leading causes of deaths of humans is quote-unquote medical malpractice, the effects of these quote-unquote meds, and the coercion of getting those hot sauce 19s. And I'm gonna add this, since it's all around the news as I'm making this video, on how the way doctors specifically give certain meds to pregnant women or right after they had a baby while they're breastfeeding to specifically harm the child. I've always known this, but we've never seen anyone at a high level come out in public and say that. We usually get banned for saying something that direct as he did. So I want y'all to think about it like this. If these foreigners don't care about the original Americans, which is the quote-unquote black Americans, like they care about their own people, why would they try to prevent anything they already have programs set up to specifically harm these people they're telling them not to like? For instance, the hot sauce 19 schedules they have for young kids. It is literally specifically made to harm a specific type of child, if y'all know what I mean. And for most of us, right, everyone that look like me, right, most likely we get the experimental meds. We'll get the quote-unquote generic version. We'll never get the real version of anything. What they basically been doing this whole time was using us, since we're the original humans, to perfect them because they was made from us. I mean, if you pay attention, it literally says medical practice on their doors, bro. And we are the guinea pigs. You see me personally, I'm about to be 33 years old. I have never been sick my whole adult life once I realized that everything came from them. You know, outside of eating bad food or maybe a quote-unquote hangover, you feel me? But other than that, I haven't even been sick. I don't even look my age because I know what they've been doing. So back to this. All these people in the quote-unquote specialty occupations literally is there just to alter our lives. In the higher positions, that is, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying outside of the medical field, we have judges, for instance. Also the CEOs, like, you know what I'm saying, that's on top of the companies. It could be a security company, like the police station. You get what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they are a part of their silent war system. And you already know it gets deeper. A visa is a official document issued by a foreign country's government that grants permission for a foreigner to enter, stay for a specific period of sometimes work, study within the country. What a visa does grants permission to travel, regulates entry, and specifies the purpose of travel. So after reading all of that, right, I want you to ask yourself, why on all our bank cards, it has the word visa on it? And then the word debit gotta be right beside it somewhere, somehow. I'm gonna tell you, but let's dig a little bit deeper. Here's the origins of the Visa cards, or rather, the predecessor, Bank AmeriCard, were created in the United States by the Bank of America in 1958, launching the first consumer credit card program within a revolving credit feature in Fresno, California. The brand was officially rebranded as Visa in 1976, becoming the global network of financial institutions after evolving from the Regional American Initiative. I'm going to say that again because I want y'all to notice how the way it's literally said it came from the Regional American Initiative. This means the world energy/financial system literally all comes from America. And remember, I've been proving to y'all, we've been funding the whole world this whole time, giving all the other nations our benefits, while Americans face oppression, hate, and consequences from what they did. What happened was the real slaves, who are the foreigners, signed contracts and were sent here to America by their own people to be indentured servants. But when the banks came into play, that's when things reversed. But I'm going to get on that. First, they had to overrun the country with their indentured servants to have the majority and get them to follow a strict program. And eventually, the Americans followed along with it. I don't know if you've ever seen these studies they did with people in a random room when people got to go to an appointment, right? The first set of people knows it's a game they're playing. So when they hear like a sound, like a bell ring, they'll all stand up for no reason and sit back down. By the time all of them was gone and the people that wasn't inside the program, was inside the trick, like knew what was happening, they continued to stand up when they heard the bell ring. And then a new person came in. And then he started doing the same because she just said everybody else was doing it, so she kept doing it. Meanwhile, it's way past her appointment. She ain't even realize it. She just still standing up every time she hears the bell. Now I gotta go check that out. But that's basically what they did to get the masses to follow them. So once that started to work, this is when banks turned into indentured trustees as a corporation, but not a living being. Because technically, a corporation, quote unquote corpse, cannot interact with a living being in the courtroom. But guess what? They do it anyways, which is fraud. So just in case y'all don't know what indentured means, it just means binding, hence the contracts. So essentially, all these indentured servants started to work on the behalf of the indentured trustees, which are usually banks or people that knows how to get direct access to the treasury. And this is why they created DEI and other policies to prevent Black Americans from ever getting in a position to realize what's really happening behind the scenes. Because eventually they'll realize everything is coming from our credit. And then you start wondering why we use their debit, their quote unquote debt notes that we call money. Then it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks that the banks are security transfer agents because they're your trustee. They're stealing all the Black Americans' credit and giving it to their businesses and foreigners, while we're left dealing with their debit that they control here. Then you'll understand why this is a global system, especially if you grew up being affected by this. Any financial troubles. So check it, back to the Visa. Look at these years. We all know 1958 is right after World War II when we lost. The same year they started to hide the truth with things like the Antarctic Treaty, hide that we live on a flat earth. Also, when they created credit scores, which really is a social credit score everybody's so afraid of right now when it's already been happening this whole time. They just wasn't affected, but we were. The social security number used for everything is the social part, which obviously correlates to your credit score. Social credit score, because it correlates to your social security number. Simple. This is oppression. As I see, 1966, basically this is when they started organizing all their banks to complete their plans. 1970, as y'all can see, that's when they started to split these things into different entities to make it much harder to fight in court. 1976, they officially rebranded. In 2007, the global corporation was finally formed. Then guess what happens afterwards, bro? The 2008 financial collapse. Then what comes after that? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Are y'all seeing the pattern? Yo, this video almost 10 minutes long, so I'm gonna make a part 2. And trust me, obviously I'm not one of them niggas that wanna make a 60-second video just to make you stay tuned. I'm really trying to teach y'all. Just one a little bit too long. But y'all know how I keep it. Y'all be God. Peace. The truth about visas, part 2. You see, essentially what they did was create a system for foreigners, not Americans. This is why I keep telling y'all that we are not citizens, but all foreigners are. We're not supposed to use visas because it's only for citizens. But as I just showed y'all, it's on all of our bank cards, foreigner or not. The debt is owned by the U.S. corporation, and the citizens is owned by the U.S. corporations. That's why only they're supposed to use it. Just like all the citizens is supposed to be living in Washington, D.C. in that small area. They clearly expanded out of their zone. So all the credit is owned by the American people, the quote-unquote Black Americans. We were the ones that funded the bank by coercion or deception. Our bank then gives our credit to the businesses and corporations, while we're forced to use their debt with these same businesses they gave our credit to balance out the books. So now it becomes a perpetual cycle. So previously I said that you cannot go into court with a corporation, a quote-unquote corpse, versus a living being. But when you go in versus them, then they use that against you and now you can't do it. But they do it to us all the time. They'll do anything to prevent Black Americans from accessing their actual credit. As I mentioned earlier, that's what the social credit score is for. It forces us into bad neighborhoods, low-paying jobs, into bad cities. They literally created for us to drown in because they placed it on negative ley lines. I said all that to say this. The harder it is for foreigners to come over here, hence the $100,000 visa, the easier it will be for the Americans to live freely and not be oppressed. They already know their benefits come from our oppression. We just don't know as a collective, even though we're living through it, bro. There's a reason why all the foreigners always say that quote-unquote Black Americans paved their way to come to America. They know it was done by deception. So it's literally a passive-aggressive joke that we don't even know of as a collective when they tell us that shit, bro. In all reality, right, only the super rich is supposed to be able to come visit or live in America. And that's how it is everywhere. Like here in America, most likely it's going to be a quote-unquote white person that's going in different countries all the time, choosing to pick to visit or to live in. You're not going to find a large group of Black Americans being able to travel across seas at all. Most probably left their city, bro. That's how oppressed we are as a collective. But of course, no one gives a fuck, so they don't know. They never experienced what we experienced. They just assume that if something else, they're just ignoring the whole war that's been going on their whole lives, bro. So I want y'all to think about it like this, right? This is how they took over. Imagine them bringing 20 million foreigners over here, right? And they're all following the same program. But there's only 2 million Black Americans here in America. Eventually, they'll be coerced into that same program by missing out on healthcare, food, housing, etc. Just like it is in other countries. You see, there's a reason why different nations isn't supposed to live together. Because the thought process is not the same. You can clearly look around and see this. And especially how Black Americans are treated by everyone. You see, they'll really talk about other nations' problems and wars. Besides what's been happening right here in front of them, they're a whole motherfucking lies, bro. And it's only because we are not from the same nation. They have no connection to us. Even though they came from us. And that's the real reason why we are one. But if you don't want to accept that truth, we can't be, because you're one with the enemy. The dragon side of your nature. So y'all know how in Revelations, they said they forced everyone to worship the beast, the image of the beast, that is. And we all know it's 666, but guess what's on your barcode? 666. That coercion is when they talking about everybody being forced for that mark in order to buy or sell. The thing is, a lot of people don't know, or they may know, is that the quote-unquote Black Americans had 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. We are the beast. We are 666. They're just using an image of 666 instead of using us, because we're the original temple that I keep proving to y'all. I'm gonna also add, that's why they place these towers everywhere, so we cannot activate, as in the gods, the ones that still got the pure 666 energy. They are literally afraid of us, and that's why they use everyone else to keep us down, so we can never rise back into power and put order to all this chaos. We are the ones with the Christ consciousness. Y'all keep saying Jesus. They say Jesus Christ for a reason, to confuse y'all, because y'all may not have a strong connection to your spirit to realize they're really talking about the Christ frequency. And this is why they experiment on us. Like I said, we're the original temple. They have to use us in order to perfect all their creations they created from us. I don't know if y'all ever heard of the ancient land of Kemet, which is in ancient Egypt, which is here in America. It was called the land of blacks, and they experimented on them. And they came up with a word for that. And guess what they called it? Chemistry. Which eventually advanced to biology, which is them using our genetics with plants, insects, everything they could put their hands on. And they just sat there and watched and observed it. We all lived through it. We all seen it. We all experienced what the fuck they've been doing this whole time. But we just ignore it and act like it's normal. So I want y'all to just think about this and how simple I made this video. While experts in these fields will make shit as complex as possible just to make sure you feel like you're lower than them. When it's all so fucking simple, bro. Everything. That's literally the real reason why people go to school, is to learn the vocabulary, the spell casting language, just to take over people's minds. I know y'all seen Harry Potter and Hogwarts. That's what the fuck has been going on this whole time, bro. Y'all be thinking it's a game. Think about Lord Voldemort. Was he not a motherfucking reptilian, bro? Just saying. Them niggas even had the mentors on there, and they are real. Like, they go through all that in order to get your consent. Like anyone original with the spirit, they need your consent before they do anything. And they had to go to school to do it. And believe just because they got your consent is going to avoid their karma. But they got it wrong, because God is going to be on that ass, bro. So I hope y'all watching too, because y'all about to feel it. Anyways, y'all know how I keep it. I hope y'all picked up what I put down. Y'all be guys. Hey.